So what would be, let's say, the hardest challenge in leading a manufacturing industry? As the trend is going on, people are moving less towards manufacturing and more towards other things.
Land is extremely expensive. Building not so much, but industrial land in a good industrial area is challenging. That's, I think, going to be challenged not only now, but going forward, because industrial land is going to become more and more scarce in India. So this might be a good time to talk about carbon. All the countries meet once a year. We've set a challenge for ourselves to cut down greenhouse gas emissions.
Is it sustainability right now check the box to show, or actually industry wants to work on it?
I think it's a bit of both. There are certain geographies and countries genuinely making an effort.
Like Europe.
Europe stands apart. You can't just get away by checking boxes. You have to actually go ahead and execute. We're experiencing the real impact of climate change already.
So you have more storms, you have more flooding. Now it's visible to people like us. Humidity sounds harmless until it destroys hundreds of crores of products. Whether it's the pharma industry, the EV industry, the chips industry, the enemy is moisture. Today, we have Varun Pahwa, the president of DRI Group, who will share his entrepreneurial journey, the innovation he's doing, and the legacy he's building. Varun, thank you for being here. Thank you very much. A pleasure to have you here.
Thanks, Suraj. Thanks for having me over.
So let's just start from the background. Your education, where did you study? Was it India, outside India? And how did you eventually come into the group?
So I'm a Delhi boy. Grew up in Old Delhi, Civil Lines area. I went to a school called St. Xavier's and left school to do my engineering in Bangalore. Finished that, moved to the Middle East, of all places. Lived in Dubai when Dubai was really coming up during the construction boom. And then I left for the US to do my MBA in Boston. Back in India since 2006-07 and joined the family business. Actually, I'm second generation in the family business. And it's been a great journey since then.
So you always wanted to come back because, what we're seeing a trend where people generally move out and then they stay out in the US or, anywhere else. Do you always thought that since it's a family run business, you have to come back, or you really wanted to come back?
So I was born into the industry. I think ever since me and my brother were growing up, we only kept hearing stories about my parents' journey and kept meeting all our foreign visitors, and I was quite inspired, quite excited. And when I was in the US in 2006, I think we were in a time frame when India was had opened up, but hearing a lot of positive stories. And there was an eagerness to come back, and I think the right decision. And it's
in hindsight.
Yeah. So it's been a
But आप solve क्या करना चाह रहे हो? This industry, बहुत लोगों को पता नहीं है कि ये exactly industry है क्या, right? It's not just ACs, or you're trying to solve humidification, right? तो what are you doing? What's the problem which is so big, which I understand कि थोड़ा degree इधर उधर and you can destroy so much of goods. What is this? Just to understand.
So our industry globally is referred to as the HVACR industry, which is heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration industry. And that further gets split into residential, commercial, which is commercial buildings like malls, airports, hotels, and industrial, mostly factories and processes. So people typically correlate air conditioning with residential systems because that's what they see, a VRF system or a fan coil system or normal air conditioning through the wall unit. But there's a lot more to it. When you get to commercial buildings, there's central plants, large chillers, air handling units, which cool and ventilate full large buildings such as an airport. You can imagine how big a task that is to keep so many thousands and millions of square feet cooled throughout the year. And then when you get into industrial, you've got your own challenges because that is not really air management for humans or people, but for machines or the processes. So all three are very, very separate. So we, as a group, we are into two legs, which is one is commercial, which I mentioned, hotels, office complexes, malls and airports. There you have to keep in mind, because of the scale, these systems can be energy guzzlers. So that's where we focused on sustainable air conditioning. What can we do to reduce energy? And on the industrial side, it's more about quality control. How can we ensure the product that one is manufacturing is not affected by humidity levels or adverse temperatures or pollutants in the air?
You talked about sustainability. I'm just trying to understand. जो हम लोग सोचते हैं, right? ACs when they throw the warm air is actually making the environment worse, right? And जो scale में आप काम कर रहे हो, and there's so much talk on net zero. So how are you working towards it as a big group? What's your view on sustainability and how you moving? Because technically these are the most non-sustainable types of equipment, right?
So there is no doubt that air conditioning in any building does take up a large portion of the total energy consumption. So there are ways and means that one can reduce the energy consumption of these machines. So the fundamental approach is you start with a good design. That means this is now at the architectural or the HVAC consultant level where they're designing the building.
You don't do that?
We don't do that, but we work with these stakeholders, especially if the mandate from the developer or the owner is that he wants to build a green building, a genuine sustainable building. So there are certifications available which give you a structure where you can go about designing a more energy efficient building. And keep in mind, everything is related to the carbon footprint, which I'll talk about a little later, because I think that's the buzzword everybody's talking about, carbon. So it's somewhat misunderstood at times, but it'll be good to understand what's the carbon impact on all that front. So a good design, a good thought process early on can really end up saving energy going forward. Then the choice of the equipment that you put in, how energy consuming it is per square foot or per square meter of design, can really also play a lot of, has a big impact in the total energy consumption. So that's where we focus on equipment, bringing down the energy used per unit of cooling or drying.
I mean, you have a long legacy, around 60 years, I think, right? So tell me something, एक advice जो आपके father ने दी हो, I assume your father was leading the company, right? Which has shaped you as a leader today. I mean, one thing which he's guided you or has stayed with you and you've built that.
So my father is still leading the company. He's now 77, but I think in his heart and approach, he's still 37. Yeah. So I think that's something to do with that generation. They really want to be at it, and he's still the most energetic person in the group. And I think a lot of our friends can relate with that.
Yeah. So, sometimes I feel कि हमारा generation कैसे करेगा? I mean,
so there's a lot of energy and a lot of inspiration there. So he's really still leading from the front. So one thing that now when I look back, and he kept telling me, and I now quite respect that, relate to that, is that focus on the front end, focus on growth. Don't get too hung up on and caught on the backside of the business, which is operations and support systems. And I tended to sort of be more involved in that, perfecting the back end as opposed to front end. But I think as leaders, we have to really look ahead, look at the marketplace, look at opportunities. And I think majority of our time should go there. But I think the period from 25 to 35 when I was there, I focused a lot on back end, which set a good foundation. But I think changed focus and now looking at purely at opportunities in the front end.
So you said like 25 to 35 you focus. So let's say if you were to advise a 25-year-old Varun Pahwa today, right, which you have learned over the years, what advice which you would give to that 25-year-old जो let's say आपको नहीं पता होगा उस समय, या आपने realize नहीं होगा, but अब आपको लगा कि if I would have done this, or if I would have known this, I would have done something.
So one line my father always uses, and again, great takeaway for me, was that depth creates height. That means the deeper you go into any subject, the more you have the ability to rise in that field, which I think I did. but maybe got too deep into some things, whereas the focus should have been more on front end growth opportunities, new. I think we have a platform as maybe second or third generation is coming into the business as to we have the back end legacy available, we have the support structure available, but our role in many ways is to bring on new on the plate. What next? So I think I could have started that journey
A
earlier.
very interesting. Depth creates height. I mean, that's a very interesting. If you were to think deep about this, it's a very interesting concept. I mean, so share a moment where I would say your leadership style was tested, when something went maybe wrong, something wrong in the factory, with labor, with client, or something went wrong, and how you as a leader overcame that, and it was actually your leadership was actually tested. I mean, just a live example if you would like to share.
Sure. So I think in retrospect, now all these challenges that one faced look easy to handle. But
Correct.
one has been through that. When you're
Yeah.
in that
Correct.
hot seat, then that's when you realize that how intense it was back then. But I think for us or for me personally, since we're geographically quite spread out, we supply to about 40 countries. We're directly present in about 20 countries. So supply chain is a very important integral part. How to get product to our customers on time. So usually we had challenges like COVID, where supply chains were disrupted. We have project challenges from a time frame point of view. Contractors want product at a particular time because they're under pressure to complete projects. So I think supply chain logistics issues do take up some time, which can be warranted somewhere else. But that when I look back is where the most of the challenges have been.
सो जैसे हम लोग जो लेमैन हैं, मे बी जो ऑडियंस सुन रही है जो थोड़े लेमैन है, हमारे लिए ह्यूमिडिटी इज लाइक स्टिकी वेदर, राइट? व्हेन वी गो आउट इट्स वेरी ह्यूमिड, यू फील स्वेटी एंड यू नो दैट स्टिकी वेदर, बट यू डील इन अनदर लेवल. आई मीन, just trying to understand what is the technology from a humidity level which you try to control in particular industries, what you're trying to use and what problem you're trying to solve there from a humidity point of view.
Right. So I'll get a little technical here, right? So we all know temperature. We're all familiar with degrees Celsius or degree Fahrenheit. Summers, we can be hitting temperatures of 45 degrees Celsius, especially Middle East, even Delhi, Rajasthan. Winters, we have 1, 2, 3 degrees going down in Delhi at night. So that's one scale. But along with that is also something called humidity or relative humidity, which is always spoken in terms of percentage. So we say relative humidity at this temperature is so and so. So for example, a perfectly comfortable office environment would be maybe 24 degrees Celsius, 50% relative humidity. That's the ability of air to hold humidity. So not getting too technical. But that number can drop down for a pharmaceutical factory or a food factory where you need to package food or prepare medicine to, let's say, 20 degrees Celsius, 20% RH. Then we get to bone dry environments. These are environments which are maintained in places called dry rooms. So all your batteries, let's say your mobile phone battery or now the EV or renewable energy storage batteries, which are lithium-ion cell batteries. Lithium is highly reactive to water vapor in the air. So you need environments which are less than 1% RH. And now we start talking in terms of another term called dew point. You have to maintain dew points down to minus 60 degrees Celsius dew points. That means condensation will not take place till the temperature is down to minus 60. I know it's a little technical, but that's how dry it is. That even one person entering that room can disrupt all the conditions because your body will give out water vapor in the air, which will disrupt.
So all these batteries ban rahi hai for EV industry today. I mean, humidity plays a very big factor.
बहुत sensitive. In fact, that is the largest energy guzzler also. And it's the most sensitive part because lithium आपका burn कर जाएगा हवा में के exposure में because of the water vapor in the air. So those have to be dried and kept dry continuously
24/7.
24/7 at the processes because it's a process plant at such low humidity levels. And now with the advent of new battery technologies like solid state batteries which are coming, you require even further lower dew points. So the need for environmental control is only getting lower and lower from a humidity point of view. So humidity touches us across all sectors, whether it's food, pharmaceutical, garment exports, leather exports. You don't want an exporter to find out that when he's opening the shipment in Spain, there's mold and mildew, fungus growth just because of the high humidity levels. So it does need control.
It's a big concern.
And on the other side, some processes need addition of humidity. So that's humidification.
Okay.
So
okay, when we put water and in homes when we do that, so that's humidification.
you don't want too dry an
You don't want too
environment.
dry.
So
So
it works both ways.
tell us about some new innovation you're working in. I mean, let's say you are in this field, not maybe necessarily to your field, but I mean your group is quite large. So or in your field, any new technology you are working on where you really think that this is the future and this is the way you want to go forward.
So this might be a good time to talk about carbon.
Okay.
So we know all the countries meet once a year. We have COP. We've set a challenge for ourselves to cut down greenhouse gas emissions. We want to restrict temperature rise of the planet to 1.5 degrees Celsius, which might be beaten faster than one expected because we've really pumped in a lot of CO2 and greenhouse gases. So the theme globally is, whether it's a developed world or developing world, is how we can cut down our carbon emissions. So our industry also has a key role to play. So the carbon emissions are across all sectors, whether it's the transport sector, industry, agriculture is a great contributor for carbon greenhouse gases as well, like methane. So our industry is also playing a key role. So one is how you can keep the damage under check by good design, by good use of energy efficient equipment. You reduce the carbon or energy use, which is a direct correlation to carbon because you're producing energy from non-conventional or polluting sources like coal power plants, etc. But what do you do to reduce the carbon which is already suspended over the last 30, 40 years of fast-track industrialization that has taken place on the planet? So we need to really reduce that to make an impact. Whatever is happening now is not going to move the needle. But I think like any industry, as any target as humanity, we've collectively set a target to start reducing the carbon in the air. So it's going to be a 30, 40 year journey where we start making an impact. But we have to reduce the carbon dioxide already suspended in the air. So that's where we're focusing now. I think that's a key technology for the future as well. जो CO2 है उसको कम कैसे करें?
पर मैं एक चीज समझना चाहता हूँ. I mean, talking to people, is it sustainability right now check the box to show, or actually industry wants to work on it? Because बहुत से बात करो, it maybe right now directly does not affect your P&L directly. It in the long run 100% it will affect your P&L, your supply chain, etc. पर मैं just समझना चाहता हूँ कि exactly is it really आप लोग काम करना चाहते हो sustainability में या net zero करने में, या it's like okay check the box compliance है, ये कर लो वो कर लो?
I think it's a bit of both. There are certain geographies and countries and societies which are genuinely making an effort.
Like Europe.
Europe stands apart. And maybe that also leads to a negative consequence of bureaucracy and slowing down projects and things like that. So we know ESG mandates, we know EcoVadis and programs like that. It's quite a commitment, and you can't just get away by checking boxes. You have to actually go ahead and execute these plans to reduce your footprint. And I think companies such as yours also do a lot of work in that front to keep a check and certify if the genuine work is happening or not. But in many ways, if the certification programs are not that strong, it is more of greenwashing. So,
what's your view on the US philosophy now? Because if we were to see, Europe and US are poles apart from a sustainability point of view. And you, as a company, you're in Europe as well and you're in the US as well. So what's your view from a sustainability point of view, agar baat kare?
Little political discussion here, but I think it can get, the journey can get disrupted because of political ideology for the short term, but I think the long term, everybody realizes that they have to attack this problem, because it's now visible. We all experience it. It's not theoretical anymore. Climate change. I think we all, whether we're in the urban cities or
We can see.
rural,
I mean,
we're experiencing
experiencing it. Yeah, yeah.
the real
Yeah,
impact of
yeah,
climate change
absolutely,
already.
absolutely. You
So I
have more
think,
storms, you have more flooding. I mean, now it's visible to people like us.
and within a decade, if you see, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
we've
yeah,
seen those
actually.
changes.
I
So
mean,
so
even we
it's
see
only
the
going to.
rainy season in India, and you're seeing Himachal and Uttarakhand, and it's disrupting quite a bit from a climate change perspective. So you have a brand called Bry-Air, right? And in the 70s and 80s, you acquired this from a US. I mean, it's a US brand which you took over. Now, if we were to see at that time, people could not imagine. Today, fast forward 2025, you can still understand this. But during that time, it was not something which would be very common. So, what was the thought process about the whole thing? Because at that time, if you tell कि एक Indian company जाके किसी US company से brand ले या जो भी करे, it was not very common.
So the brand was not ours in the 60s and 70s. It was a joint venture in the late 70s, early 80s with the US-based company. So our legacy is 60 years, but going back to Ohio in the US. So fast forward to 2006 is when we acquired the brand Bry-Air and the global rights for the brand. And it was logical that we headquartered in India, because most of our manufacturing and engineering is here, and the management team is here. So that only happened as late as 2006. But what we're finding is that it's fairly effective to manage everything ex India, especially in the last 10 years. There is a lot of appreciation for brand India. While we have the advantage of playing on the legacy of the US, but we do proudly mention on our equipment and our marketing that proudly made in India. I think there are tremendous advantages we have as a country to be in the engineering field and look outwards beyond our subcontinent or even the APAC region. I think there is great respect now for Indian engineering and manufactured products which are typically applied in nature. So things have changed quite a bit. And I think we have to take advantage of the cost arbitrage that we have on the manufacturing side and the engineering side. So there's a lot of plus points for us.
So you talked about, India is gaining that traction. I think so everyone has seen in the last 10, 12 years, like we're really gaining traction. What's your view on Make in India? I mean, the whole concept behind, like if you were to ask me, I'm very positive about the whole aspect. मेरा thought process है कि I think so it's time now for India the next 20, 30 years where we will really, become globally competitive, strong, appreciated. Now, but you are from the manufacturing industry, so I want to hear from you from a manufacturing point of view. How do you see Make in India as a concept which got built, and now how's it growing and how's it being appreciated globally?
So as a entrepreneur or an investor, whether homegrown Indian company or house or a foreign investor, India presents two very strong opportunities. One is our domestic consumption, which is going to grow. I think the trajectory is all set. So we will be a consuming market for capital equipment, machinery, but also given the geographical location where we are, and the proximity to the whole APAC region, Middle East region, and don't neglect Africa as an upcoming, and with our port connectivity, we and a lot of foreign companies are also looking at India as an export base to cater to these markets. So whereas, just an example, the Koreans are looking at India as not only India as a market, but using this as a base to export. And so are a lot of Indian companies. So I think all in all, we have to appreciate that we are geographically in a very advantageous position to address the markets left and right of us beyond the great growth we're going to have in the next 20 years.
And how do you see India's focus and your company's focus on R&D, right? I mean, India was used by, let's say, the Western companies as R&D hubs now, but Indians were not very R&D focused. So what is your thought process about the R&D which is happening in India, or what you are trying to do and use this R&D globally, let's say?
आई थिंक वहाँ पे बहुत कुछ हो सकता है अभी. वहाँ पे जो हमारे इंडियन कंपनीज हैं वो अभी भी इतना इन्वेस्ट नहीं करते हैं, बिकॉज एक बेंचमार्क होता है कि व्हाट परसेंटेज ऑफ योर रेवेन्यू आर यू प्लाउइंग बैक टू योर R&D स्पेंड. एंड आई थिंक एवरी कंपनी शुड ट्रैक दैट, एवरी कंट्री शुड ट्रैक दैट एज व्हाट परसेंटेज ऑफ योर GDP इज गोइंग बैक टू grants to universities for and R&D development, what kind of incentives you're giving to industry as R&D. So I think that's where we need to do a lot more to keep a pipeline of innovative products coming from Indian companies going. That's the only edge we can have to compete globally, because if you have and especially with the speed of change, unless you have a great pipeline of products coming out which are innovative in every matrix that you might choose to track on. So that's still miles to go for Indian companies.
Miles to go for India. Any example you've come across, let's say, of a we were talking about EV industry or the chip industry, where humidification was not at the right level and something went wrong? And have you come across something like this in your experience?
So I think now quality norms are quite stringent. But just to give you an example, when China's way ahead in the lithium-ion battery revolution, they saw the wave coming years ahead of the planet, and they've built up the largest capacity in the world. But I think they also struggled initially with good quality batteries. And if the humidity is not controlled as per those very specific guidelines, you can have quality problems. So you've had issues of fire, battery bursting. Yeah. So this is just one example. So this is where humidity can play a very important role when you're producing semiconductor chips.
That's the inward these days in industry, right?
So humidity control has to be maintained in a very precise band. Data centers require humidity to be maintained in a pretty narrow band as well. Processed food, every food packaging or processing industry needs to be conscious and be aware of what humidity levels there are specified and where
the government norms. So this is something which you follow.
These are what we call as GMP, good manufacturing practices, which are available as standards. In the pharmaceutical industry, it's more mandated, especially if you're a US FDA approved facility. You have to not only maintain, but you have to have records going back decades. And you know how these US FDA, we, in fact, India has the largest number of US FDA facilities outside the US.
Oh, is it?
From a pharmaceutical side.
But no one knows this, I think so.
And the compliance there is very, very stringent. And they don't give you a heads up before they come for an inspection.
Acha, okay.
So they can land up 24/7 any day. The US team will land up because you're exporting generic drugs to the US and other special drugs as well. So there again, humidity has to be measured and maintained and kept record of in a very stringent band.
So हम लोग like जैसे industry 4.0, if you were to talk about, I think so. I've been hearing this since last 10 years or something. Industry 4.0. What is it? I mean, and how do you fit into this? I mean, what is industry 4.0 for the larger audience, and how your company fits into the whole thing?
So the way I see it, it's making your shop floor more intelligent, having your machines on the shop floor talk to each other. And what's the end goal? The end goal is to bump up productivity, efficiency, have data available on tap. But a lot can be done by making your legacy machines more intelligent and talk to each other. So there are new protocols in place. You have now the ability to do remote monitoring, central monitoring, and it's all about big data. So efficiency can be bumped up significantly by processing this data using AI tools. So it's all tying in together. But the future is not only self-driving cars and robots, but I think your brick and mortar factory machinery, whether it's an extrusion line or a blow molding line, how do you make that more intelligent and have it communicate?
So what is the innovation you're betting on? I mean, out of you're talking about this in terms of, I mean, you talked about how carbon, but what innovation are you betting on which will really, you think, in the next 20, 30 years? I know these days 20, 30 years is a lot. I mean, everything changes every year, but what innovation you really betting on?
So our focus is a lot on reducing energy consumption of the machines that we already produce. So let's leave that aside. But I think one thing which is of great potential for us is back to carbon dioxide capture. If we can start looking at solutions for capturing CO2 anywhere in the world, there is an energy consumption there as well. But if we can use, let's say, renewable energy sources there, and have these modular systems which can reduce carbon dioxide, I think. And then what you do with the carbon dioxide is what basically you pump it underground.
Achha, you pump it.
So because you're locking away the carbon dioxide. Another interesting technology can be to produce water from air, especially in dry, arid environments. And it all ties in with what we already do. But that's something which can go one
Any
step
air,
towards
normal air? I mean, just put.
yeah. So, but where we're focusing is how do you produce water when it's extremely dry? Let's say Rajasthan or Riyadh, where it's dry, and where there is a genuine water quality problem or availability problem.
And it can generate like good quantity, or is like
It can
like
generate water for human consumption. You can make it portable by adding minerals to it. So at least basic water needs can be met.
can be met. And you know, water is on a depleting trajectory overall. I mean, we saw what happened in South Africa, and you know, overall. So I mean, this would be a great technology if you could.
Not only South Africa, but places even like California.
Yeah, correct.
So water will be
a problem.
our
I mean,
oil in the next 20 years. Yeah.
so one product maybe which you have, I would say, which you feel is like really a rock star, but the customers have still not appreciated. Is there, you think that you in your mind think, yeah, I have built something अच्छा इतना अच्छा product बनाया है, but somehow उस level में होता है. I mean, it happens with a lot of businesses कि I think यार ये product तो is like 5 star, but actually बिकता नहीं.
एक है, but I think it might be boring for the audience. But we have a product which can produce chill water or cold water by using waste heat as an input. So if you have waste heat available which is going untapped, you give us that heat, we'll produce chill water, and that can be used for any process industry or cooling of a office block or a factory. I know it's a little boring, but I think there's great potential in scaling up that product line.
Let's talk big. What is your vision 2030? I mean, this is like the another buzzword going on for everyone. What is vision 2030? So what is vision 2030 for you?
So Vision 2030 is actually not too far off. It's
Yeah,
only
it's
5 years. When 5 years fly away,
But you
before
know,
you know it.
in today's time, somehow, 5 years, lots and lots can change.
Right.
So for you,
So
I
I
mean,
think in India, I think quite optimistic about our home market. I think there are 2 or 3 segments or maybe more which are growing. So pharmaceuticals growing, food is growing for us. Commercial building, we're building tier 2, tier 3 cities are coming up everywhere. So we touch upon solutions there. Data centers are coming up. We have a play there as well. Semiconductor factories are coming up, especially with Taiwanese investment coming into India. You've got the battery. India wants to be self-reliant on the battery side. We don't want to necessarily import cells from Korea and China and be just battery assemblers. We want to make the core cells here in India. So all these things are tying into our 5-year growth plan. But also we want to increasingly use India as our manufacturing and export base to our feeder subsidiaries. And I am still very optimistic about the US market. I think there is great value in that market we've focused on. Hopefully the India-US trade deal goes off and the tariffs are more reasonable. But I think we have to look at US as all Indian exporters have to use. There's great value realization there, and also it's in ease of doing business in the US is very good, and acceptability of Indian products. So I think US plays in a very big as a market into our 5-year plan to scale up.
so what would be, let's say, the hardest, the challenge in leading a manufacturing industry? Is it the capital? Is it the labor? Is it the client? I mean, as the trend is going on, people are moving less towards manufacturing and more towards other things. So just to understand that, what's the big challenge about the whole manufacturing setup and manufacturing industry?
I think it's case specific or company specific. I think some companies are more comfortable outsourcing a lot and being the final assemblers, and or you could take another approach of being fully vertically integrated, do everything yourself in house. So it depends company by company. We've chosen a different path. We've chosen to do everything ourselves internally. Where we are fully vertically integrated. We manufacture everything ourselves, even the subcomponents, and then we assemble and then we export or maybe do the final assembly internationally for the local markets. So from a challenge point of view, I think India has got a lot better from a manufacturing capability point of view. Land is extremely expensive. That is the building, not so much, but land, industrial land in a good industrial area and in an industrial area where you'll be able to find talent around is challenging. I think any project ROI gets under a big question mark when you start looking at the per acre land of industrial land. So that's, I think, going to be challenge not only now but going forward, because industrial land is going to become more and more scarce in India as factories come up. But otherwise, I think labor laws are quite manageable, reasonable. We have state governments supporting now, because I think there's a healthy competition among states.
Yeah.
So all that is tying in properly with the whole Make in India scheme. And my personal take is I think ease of doing business has got better. A lot of people may differ, but I think my personal take is that things have got easier to do business in India.
Any example you would like to give, let's say, of, you said you were in 20 countries, where you have gone into a country and pulled back because things didn't work out, or
वो चलता रहता है. One has to be dynamic, one has to be flexible, one has to keep exploring the markets again and again. But I think the more important thing is to go out and explore. So be adventurous to go out and explore new markets, whether it's South America, itna dur hai. But
you're in South America as well.
Yeah,
so you're from China to South America, you like cover the whole globe in a way.
So we're not so active in Europe, but I think rest of the world we're trying to.
And how do these regions differ? Let's say from India, I mean culturally from India, how do these regions, I mean there's a vast difference, but is it tough to do businesses when you are leading a business in, let's say, 20 countries? Regions are different, culture is different. I know you may have heads of these countries, but you know, and you cannot be experts in dealing with like culturally with so many people. How does it differ? How does it work? I mean, having a group in 20 countries.
I think it's fun. Let me start by saying that. And I think there is something inherent when you expand globally. The DNA gets planted in wherever you go. So we are present in China as a local company. We've been there for 30 years. But I think the value system that we have in our India team is probably replicated in China as well. And we see traces of that even as far as Brazil or Korea or US. So I think you carry your culture out as well. But I think that being said, we as an international team of people who do business, and the management team and the export team, we are quite receptive to pick up the best in every country that we operate in. Just to give you an example, we have now a new saying in the company that we want to be like the Koreans. Why? Because we are there's so much to learn by their speed of execution. We want to be deep thinkers like the Japanese. We want to be perfectionists like the Germans. But when it comes to speed of execution, we want to be the Koreans. And we want to be... And there's something great to be learned from the Chinese as well.
I'm sure, absolutely.
So we have challenges of bureaucracy way more than India in certain markets. So there are countries like Brazil where you'll face that. But once you've decided to be in a country, I think everything else becomes secondary. You find ways and means to overcome all that and bring in speed into the system.
So let's talk about the newest trending topic, AI. Right. Now, what's your view on AI, digital transformation, whatever you want to call it? But it's disrupting everything at an extremely, extremely fast pace. I mean, to be honest, I feel, and I'm trying to learn as much as possible, seeing videos, learning, you know, your learning gets old very fast with AI, and the things it's doing, it's absolutely mind-boggling, right? So what's your view in this whole industry? Are you thinking from your industry point of view how you can utilize AI either to from a front end perspective, but it could be from a back end perspective, whatever. I mean, what's your view in the whole AI ecosystem, which is come like, I mean, I think so. Everyone knew it's coming, and we are seeing, but the daily change is so fast that it's evolving too fast,
Too fast.
too fast.
बहुत जल्दी आ रहा है चेंज आई
बहुत
थिंक
ज्यादा, कुछ ज्यादा ही जल्दी। आई मीन टू बी ऑनेस्ट, मतलब मुझे लगता है कि जो पढ़ा कल वो पुराना हो गया क्योंकि कुछ नया आ गया एंड बेटर आ गया।
I think as any CXO in any company, you have to be aware as to what's happening. I think a lot of American companies are getting more aware of what the power this has or the abilities this has to unleash from a business point of view. We in India are probably not realizing how much of an impact this can make. But I think it's important for everyone to be aware. And the change is not years, it's not even months, it's weeks. Literally weeks, we're seeing tools come up which can revolutionize the
Amazing
HR
things.
department,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
marketing department, make one production team redundant completely, or bring in so much more efficiency. So I think everybody has to be aware and conscious. But I think we have to take time out to see how AI can help us to make us more efficient. That is the requirement right now. Just keep educating yourself, and there's so much out there already.
So I was seeing some videos and I was reading about these dark factories in China, right? Using AI technology, whatever types. And you know, when I saw the videos, पहले तो मुझे लगा कि असली है कि नहीं असली है. Today again, when talking about AI, so now that's a risk also. We really don't know कि जो हम देख रहे हैं वो असली भी है कि असली नहीं है, right? You need to have a right source to it. You know, you think something like this can come to India, where these, like what I saw at least, I don't know how true it is, but these machines right from the beginning of a product inception to basically making it, there's hardly any person in the factory. And I was reading they call dark factories because obviously machines don't need lights. I mean, what's your view in the whole, because you're in the manufacturing space, in are you thinking towards that, not today, maybe tomorrow, something like this we will have to do to create
Yeah, I
efficiency?
think in China it's becoming more of a necessity. The labor rates are already 3 or 4x of India. So here we're unfortunately not pushed because we don't have those pressures of high labor overheads compared to even a country like China. But it's inevitable. I think everybody has to start thinking on those terms to stay competitive. Even in India, I think we might have the luxury of a few more years to catch up, but it's inevitable.
What happens to the labor? I mean, we've been, when we're talking AI, we've been talking about the amount of unemployment. It may rise. I mean, they're both sides of the story. लोग ये बोलते हैं कि employment will evolve to something else. Maybe people who can use AI well. Some people think, you know, this will lies in employment. We'll have to see how it is. But let's say in a factory, the labor force and all. What's your view? I mean,
It will be a challenge for India, but I'd like to stay optimistic. I think upskilling and the change in the work profile, thanks to maybe robotics on shop floor and AI, will lead to something that we'll adapt to in India. So I'd like to stay optimistic on that
no,
front.
everyone wants to कि,
Correct.
you know, someone was telling me कि जब calculator नहीं होता था तो लोग लिखते थे, right? Calculator आया, ऐसे नहीं उसकी job change हो गई. He just needed to learn. She just needed to learn how to use a calculator.
Right.
I mean, so that's what I'm being optimistic about as well.
I think this really holds a lot of advantages in Europe and US. I mean, you could potentially move to a 3-day or 4-day work week as humans, and drastic increase in productivity. And it's not something which is 5-6 years away. It could be as early as 2-3 years away. They're even talking about reaching singularity by this year or next year.
Yeah. I mean, it's 2047 or something,
So,
and
it's something that we have to be all very conscious and aware of, and watch out for trends.
yeah, I was
Especially
seeing
as
some
business
video. I think
leaders.
so. I think so. It was Sam Altman or Elon Musk or someone saying कि now the problem is what do we do with our time? Because we've become so productive, let's say, with X, like today, if I'm taking 50 hours a week to do particular work, which I'm doing, now that particular work happens in 10 hours or whatever it is. What do I do with the 40 hours? That also will be an evolvement.
Yes.
I mean, that's the thought process which you.
Yeah.
So as a group, like as a responsible group, a large group, what do you do in CSR? Because that's like as a responsible citizen, as a responsible group, what do you do as your CSR initiatives?
So this started a while ago between my father and my wife. They took the initiative that we must do something back for the society, and we should do something which is more meaningful, which is where the family can relate to, but the underlying basis or the guiding principle was that it's going to be hands-on. We're not just going to write out a check to an NGO and have them those things. Whatever we do, we should be at least passionate about it, and we should see the impact for ourselves. So they chose three fronts. One is environment, one is water and education, and one was vision, because my great grandfather was one of the leading eye doctors in the world. He practiced till the age of 92. So I think that was very close to my father's mission as well, and he wanted to do something. So it's good my wife took that lead. So she holds eye camps across northern India, particularly in the neighborhood where we are, in a town called Moga in Punjab, where we have family history. So she does reforestation projects, dam building for villages in Rajasthan, and also some bit on education as well. But everything is hands-on. It's not.
Yeah, it's not just giving money.
It's
and
not giving money.
You
We
actually
see through the
contributing.
impact. We have our people involved in those projects. We have reforestation drives where 100 people will go volunteer from the company. They'll be part of the whole initiative as well.
If you were to bottle your leadership in, let's say, one moment or one particular style, what would you say about your leadership?
Okay, I haven't thought through this one, but I think very high on empathy. I think I do make it a point to put myself in others' shoes. I think that helps me at least quite a bit. Keep the team together. I think in our business, because it's a technology-driven business, technology-intensive, we've had people stay with us for years, and I think that for us is very important. Continuity and sense of belonging. So I take out time to be with people, not only in India but on the move. Try to bring in that whole family culture of where all together, keep replicating the value system. So it's that only comes with spending time with people, and then they further down would want to spread the message and replicate that. But other than that, I think we are all excited about the trajectory and the growth plan the group has. So I think that itself is inspiration enough for all of us to become leaders, and they take a lot of sense of ownership and responsibility themselves, which is great to see.
Any risks you would have taken, right? And this, I think so. Every business leader comes across this कि मैं आज ये risk ले रहा हूँ. People are not agreeing with me, right? At that particular time, let's say people are not agreeing with you. Went on and took it, and it really became something great.
That's not me.
That's not
I'm
you.
very risk averse. That'll be my father. So I think I still need a thumbs up from him or the board, and or at least the family team, family council. So I'm risk averse that way. That's fine.
Yeah, that's any example where you would have come across where a competitor won a bid, not because of cost, but because of something they had which you didn't have, and you really thought कि यार ये this is something killer.
It's easy to get emotional about competition. I think we keep them in our radar. We sometimes know more about their company than people inside their own company. I think we really track competition quite closely. But yeah, it's at times one gets carried away with emotions when you lose a big project or something. But it's good to move on fast and learn from why you lost it. And I think on that matrix scale, make sure that you're the best on the planet, so it doesn't happen again.
If you were to have, let's say, unlimited capital today, like no labor problem, unlimited capital. Let's talk about instance. What would you like to do with that?
So I think again, every company or every family promoter group's philosophy is different. We enjoy what we do. We are in niche technology fields. We have the ability to take these products globally. And I think it's more coming from a challenge of replicating what we have here on a global scale, which may not require that huge amounts of capital. So we do have our matrices of return on assets and return on investment and cash flow, ROCE, but that capital is not our real bottleneck. It's more to see how we can spread geographically faster in what makes sense and address supply chain effectively.
But I still like to understand one thing which your competitor has, which you secretly admire and you don't have globally.
I think what there's always great things to pick up from competition. So we have two competitors globally. So we are one of the three global players. I respect the Japanese quite a bit for their sense of planning and deep thinking. And when they execute, its execution to the point which is so well thought out with time frames. So I think that is something which can greatly learn from. And I think the other company, they've gone through acquisitions, which is not probably something that I'm a great believer in, just to grow top line, disregard how much debt you're taking on and disregard bottom line. But at the end, they get the market share. So that's what
It's
matters.
a trade-off.
It's a trade-off, yeah.
Any weird customer requests you have ever got, which you thought is very weird, but you went on
Lots.
it? Lots?
We get some very challenging projects, particularly, I'll say, from the Middle East.
So tell us about the most challenging project.
I won't say challenging, but I'll mention a few interesting ones. When Qatar was going to hold the World Cup, and the time frame was moved from the summer to November or December, but prior to that, they were ready. That's how they sold the games, that we're going to hold the games in the summer. And
They were doing it summers in Qatar, that too.
because it was otherwise going to coincide with the
With
European
the-
season, and that's very difficult. But eventually got moved because I think to hold games when it's 45, 50 degrees outside, it's impossible. By that time, the games, the theoretical planning was that open air stadiums will be air conditioned, dehumidified, and that's not a small challenge. I mean, those plans of having radiant cooling on the pitch itself. So did some initial design work there, and it was out of the ballpark. So, but eventually all those projects got.
Any project which you executed, which was
Yeah. So I'll tell you, the world's largest caviar farm in the middle of a desert.
Oh, nice, interesting.
So UAE, Dubai consumes so much caviar because of their hospitality industry. So they thought, we'll make our own caviar. Why get that from Russia? So that was a huge project where they had salmon in the middle of the desert, and that required to create
environment.
Nordic or a Russian environmental control
In the middle of the desert.
So we've air conditioned shakes, horses, pools.
Okay.
So, so
Middle East
all these requests for offbeat projects come typically from the Middle East.
So you invest in startups, right? So what is one startup you wished you had invested, let's say 10 years back?
So it's been
Which you really think, yaar, I wish maybe not from a money perspective always, right? I wish I would have invested in this company. I would have loved to be a part
So I
of this
think
company.
startup investment for a lot of us has been a great learning experience. I haven't done too many startup investments. I mean, we have a portfolio, but no regrets as such. But my learning in the startup field with my brother has been that it's good on paper. The valuations are there, but in India currently it may not be easy to get an exit, even in a time frame 8 to 9 years or even beyond, because I think the great stories are being sold,
Yeah.
but the valuation is still on paper. I think the exit opportunity doesn't come
It's
about
still
that
very
easily.
less.
So we've put a stop to at least seed stage or Series A. I think if you had to look at, we'll look at probably a little bit
More
more
mature.
mature downstream investments. And startups in fields maybe one can correlate with and understand. I think that is required. Not so much contribute, but at least have the appreciation for the industry.
If Bry-Air gets an opportunity to, let's say, advertise in the middle of Times Square, what product would it be? Which really gets your, I would say the entire group, let's say, and I won't say Bry-Air
Times
entire.
Square would be a more a consumer
Yeah.
oriented product. So something to do with maybe more on lines of air quality or air purification, which is a small division for us, but as a consumer product to keep the air clean. Yeah.
One buzzword I think so you hear a lot, which really irritates you in the boardroom, and you wish you just get rid of that buzzword because these buzzwords come and go. So just what is the one current buzzword
Not
which
a buzzword, but I think my father said we're going to ban this line called "I told you so." Never look back. Keep looking forward. Keep experimenting. Keep taking risks. Keep be bold. Be adventurous. And if something doesn't go right, learn from it and move on. So never say "I told you so," which I got it much later.
one patent you wish you had filed or you would have invented before someone else? You really, let's say, aspire or you really liked it.
No, I think the world is dynamic. There's so much more to be invented and discovered and worked upon. So there's huge opportunities still going ahead. And I think the more deeper you go into any subject, you'll find opportunities and the ability to use our Indian engineering and talent base to do deeper research and then potentially to IP.
So a factory, I mean, I'm sure you go globally, see factories, various industries, not just your industry. One factory you think, this is one great factory which you have seen, not on YouTube or something, which you have physically seen. So you're like, yeah, they're good.
I think I've had a chance to visit factories across industries, across geographies, and I think even in our industry, systems which bring about efficiency in the factory layout and design. So there's a lot to be learned from pharmaceutical factories, and I think even in India, thanks to the Koreans and Japanese culture coming in early on, the vendor base coming on. I think the auto industries is, from a systems point of view, is very, very mature. And I think other industries in India can learn so much from them. Even now, Indian companies like Tata and Mahindra, there's such strong factory management systems that we can replicate and learn on our shop floors from into other industries as well.
So one Indian brand which is you think you absolutely nailed it. Like they've got everything right in terms of, let's not talk about the A level players. I mean, we will say that, they have, let's say they're very matured, but let's say the top to mid tier, which really you think and you aspire that, they've nailed it, that they've got things right.
I think the admiration is a lot in the pharmaceutical sector, especially the companies which have got US FDA approvals. They're operating at quality levels, standard levels, specification levels, compliance levels, as good as anyone in the world. So I think, and this is true for a lot of the pharmaceutical companies in India, the ones especially which are exporting.
मतलब एक चीज जो आप कभी भी किसी चीज से कॉम्प्रोमाइज नहीं करोगे, लेट्स से इन योर वर्किंग, इन योर पर्सनल लाइफ, यू विल नेवर कॉम्प्रोमाइज विद समथिंग. व्हाट इज दैट?
I think one thing that I would not want to compromise is when you get a sense of some unethical behavior going on. I think I'm a great believer that the cancer can spread, so you need to nip it in the bud. So right there, right then.
How would you, I mean, there's a legacy behind you, right? How would you want to carry forward your legacy, and how would you want to move forward this?
So it's not about individual legacy. I realized that early on. It's about creating an institution and ensuring that institution is run professionally by professionals, and what is the structure and systems in place which make it run as an institution. So I think that can be a great contribution.
But you think India as a market, I mean, just trying to understand and seeing, we still are very heavily family run businesses in India, is ready to de-link ownership and management? Because right now we still see ownership and management is generally, let's say, in most businesses same, right? But you think as a country, as culturally as a country, what I mean, we're ready that the ownership and management can get delinked and successfully. I mean, again, let's not talk about a Tata Group or something, but let's talk about a majority.
SMA sector,
Correct.
and, which is the backbone. I think it's happening. I've seen that change in the last 10, 15 years. I think with this generation coming on board, they're very practical about it. Gen 2, Gen 3, that you have to realize the difference between ownership and professional management. You may choose or you may be capable enough to be putting on the hat of a professional manager, but know your place under the sun. Either be on this table as an owner, or and lead the business as a shareholder or a board member, or be a thorough CXO, capable of leading a business professionally. Or you could wear both the hats, but at least have that clear definition. And I think that's coming about very clearly in this next generation in India, which is required, which we see in other parts of the world. Not so much in Asia, APAC, or Middle East, but at least in the US, there's a very clear distinction.
One last question: what advice you like to give to the new budding entrepreneurs? Let's say the Gen Zs, the Alphas, whatever it is. I mean, who are budding and coming up. What one advice throughout your learning, which you have learned over so many years, what as per you is what they should do, or an advice which you think from your experience will really serve them well?
Back to where I started: depth creates height. You can be the best in whatever you do on the planet. But just take time out to be the best at what you do. I think just go into details. If you do that, you'll have the ability to take on anything because you have the background, you have the foundation, you have the confidence.
So what we've seen today is, difference of few percentage and of humidity and the destruction in millions, and it's not floods. I mean, it's not the storms which is creating this. It is air unmanaged. Thank you so much, Varun,
Thank you, Suraj.
for actually
Great
having us.
interacting with you.
Pleasure to having you, and see you everyone for the next episode by Suraj Nangia Beyond Titles. Thank you.